here loves talking about themselves? So if you're watching, there are a lot of giggles and there's not a single hand that went up in the room. Talking about yourself and building visibility is actually the #1 factor. The #1 factor associated with advancement for women. So for all of us in this room, including myself, who don't really like talking about ourselves, we have to learn how to do it, and we have to learn how to do it really, really well. Otherwise, nobody is going to think of us when those amazing opportunities come around. Human beings are social animals, and as social animals, we have evolved to trust, to elevate, to support, to advance the people we know and the people who are part of our inner circle. And that's not just the way you're going to hire your next mechanic or your hairdresser or your next gynecologist if you move to a new town. It is actually how we start selecting people to be in the C-suite. It's how we decide when you have a panel of extraordinary candidates who to select among candidates who are very similar. It's how we decide who's going to be on our boards. And so this is why it is so important for you to build relationships with the people in your networks, but not just to build relationships and have them know of you. They have to actually know you. And part of knowing you comes down to understanding who you are, what you do, and why that should matter to them. I want you to think about using the process, not just when you're potentially interviewing, but I want you to think about it the next time you come to a Lean-In event and you introduce yourself to somebody you have not met before. I want you to think about it when you're working with your teams, when you're hiring somebody new, or when you're working on a project where you're combining teams, you're always going to get an opportunity to talk about yourself. You're always going to get an opportunity to explain to somebody else who you are, what you bring to the table. Sometimes it's really brief. It's an introduction around the table. But over the course of your work and your partnership together, you're going to be able to get into a longer explanation. The women I'm working with tend to be leaders, and it's really important for them to be able to walk into a meeting with their teams and explain why they are in a leadership position, that they have earned this. They want to understand why you're here today and what you do that is different from what they do. Because very often when we're looking at leadership, a lot of the people who are helping the success of an organization are actually not in leadership positions. So if you're in a leadership position and you have more power and you have more compensation and you have more say, they want to know why you deserve those things. And this is all part of articulating your value. Talk about what you do and to talk about it in a way that is compelling and captivating and helpful to the people you're addressing. There is one big problem with articulating your value when you're a woman. From a very young age, the world over, girls are socialized to be humble, to be team players, to not speak up, to not brag. And we confuse humility with being self-effacing. Therefore, we're not developing the skills and the confidence to just announce to the world what we bring to the table. Another issue is this idea of context. When you're interviewing, there's an easy context to talk about yourself. But if we say that visibility is the #1 factor associated with advancement, and I'm telling you right now, you have to build your own visibility, you can't just wait till you have to interview. The third reason is there is actually bias. Part of that comes from the way we're socialized. We love it when celebrities stand up and talk about how amazing they are. But if it's Susan at the meeting seated next to me, men and women alike will look at her and go, who does she think she is? Which means that every single one of you in this room has an opportunity to acknowledge your own bias when other women in your midst start articulating their value. And then there's this idea, and it is a fallacy, unfortunately, that our work should speak for ourselves. When you articulate your value, you are not bragging. When you articulate your value, you are being helpful. You are educating other people. You are helping them understand the best ways to position you to create maximal benefit for everybody. When you are articulating your value properly at work, you are setting yourself up to walk into the office every single day and be more impactful and happier. And for any bosses and managers listening to us, that translates into greater productivity, greater effectiveness, better word, greater engagement, better morale, things that make people not just stay at companies out of a fear of financial doom, but stay at companies because they're happy there.